So one of the things I do is I make and remake videos because the whole process is therapeutic and it's about processing events in some ways. And this video I initially made on November 13th, which was the 25th anniversary of a death experience that transformed me. And I pieced it together rather quickly, chaotically, in the week leading up to it. And it was not planned. It was just sort of the end of this saga, and it came together. And I wanted to delete it for a while after that. The problem was I had already deleted another video where I explained the death experience. And at the moment now, I'm living in the siege in Minneapolis, and instead of deleting it, I think I should remake it, because if I deleted it, I don't think I would be able to tell it all over again. So this video should not be taking place. It is bookended by 2 trauma responses over the course of a year, and a point of me still struggling, stumbling into the future, trying to figure out how to put this into the world when the feedback I'm getting from it is absolutely nothing like I anticipated. And the process is, I've gotten no responses from journalists. I've gotten no responses from migraine organizations that I've reached out to. At the beginning of this, I got no responses from literary agents for samples. The only response I ever got was from, only because I name dropped someone who recommended the literary agent, and it was still, she's conciliatory, but it was too harrowing. And at the end of it, once it's published, then I try to share it in a migraine support group that I was on, and I can't do that either. It violates the rules of self-promotion, and I asked them, the moderators, repeatedly for permission to do it. They ignored me. When it was Migraine Awareness Month, I just posted it anyways, and it got removed instantly. And I just sort of collapsed, and I couldn't stay in those groups, and has moved on. So the other option is being a disability influencer online, and it's just, I wrote specifically so I wouldn't have to do that, and I don't want to emulate these people. I'm not like this. This would be very difficult to pull off functionally, just with managing media. And also, what am I supposed to do? Put this on Instagram? Think of all of this. So my only other option is book reviews, and this is a platform called NetGalley. This is the main one for publishers. It's for advanced reader copies, ARCs, and the problem is my book is already published, and I'm sort of stumbling through this process because I'm a one-man show, and I'm in a self-publishing support group, and they say don't even bother uploading to this, because unless somebody knows who you are, you're just going to be wasting $600 and your book is never going to get reviewed. So a year ago, I had a significant problem with my neck and my spine, and it is likely a result of laying in bed for most of my life with a headache, and I lost the curvature in my neck, and it was pinching the nerves and shooting pain into my shoulder. And it's also the holidays, and my family's asking me to do physical labor, and I hate it when they do that, because my life is an open book and some of them haven't read it, and they still ask me help for things, and I have to remind them, I look normal, I'm disabled, stop asking me for help with these things. And they were doing it anyways, even when I couldn't move my neck. So I sort of receded into a bubble of doing physical therapy, and when I do that, I ended up going through a lot of videos, YouTube, my YouTube history was mainly geopolitical videos and going through that. But then I found a different channel, and by a physicist, and it was strange. It was like completely different vibe. So a quick bio, she grew up in poverty in Kentucky, and she ran away from home, put herself through school to become a theoretical physicist by working at McDonald's. So it's just like, I've never heard of such a thing. That's sort of just like instant hero status, and that's why like she's got kind of a cult following now. For someone who's really into science communication, it's like there's a big gap here, because there is science is like clickbait articles that annoy the living shit out of me. There is, academia that is behind paywalls, and then there is this branch of grifters who write popular science books, and like she's sort of a conduit that exists between all of that, and sort of making sense of what's bullshit and what's not. And it's also not dry science. It's a lot of her stuff is just science is fundamentally political, and where ethics comes into that. So I went through all her videos pretty quickly up until something.
This is a man who dies and goes to hell. He's not allowed to escape until he finds the book of his life. I liked this book. I like reading about different versions of hell.
And my body jolted. I realized she also runs a book channel. So my functional hours are all over the place, and I'm still grappling with how to, this is more of a vlog. I'm just trying to get this story out so I don't have to keep thinking about it. Like in terms of what measurement of trauma, like response, initiated this. This book I got when I was in my 20s, when I was at a bookstore, and I just looking through. And when I initially just physically put my hands on this, I just started shaking and looking for, anything visual that was similar to what I saw. And I always look for something that was quite exactly what I saw. And I mean, it's kind of, yeah. Except it's shaped like an hourglass, and there is, thousands of bodies. And then you wake up as a teenager, and it's just, you're not a teenager, you have no peers. And, it stays with you. And it's like processing it. It's like, because that was 25 years ago this week. It was November the 13th, the year 2000 at 6:30 in the evening. And so this is why I can't make videos when I'm in too much pain. I forget to turn it into quiet mode, and sometimes we'll be in too much pain, forget to turn it off quiet mode, and my laptop will turn into a block of thermite and burn my fingertips. I am also recovering from Lyme's disease right now, so my executive functioning is not the same. And I'm not sure if I'm ever going to get back to normal. Because it's been months, and I've got the chronic Lyme's symptoms, and the brain fog is pretty intense. So I'm splicing this in, so after that abrupt reaction to seeing her say, I like reading about different versions of hell, I joined her Patreon, and this is where people suggest topics for videos.
How's it going? How's it going? Let me know.
So you can see where this is going. I can't talk about myself for very long without it becoming like I am the Oppenheimer of the trauma bomb. And like, best, you know, if I let off a little kiloton bomb off in the distance and sort of show someone, yeah, that's me, you know, that's too much. But there's also like a megaton like right in front of you. So I have to not do either of those things. And you know, I have been tied to a bed, denied water with a migraine in a hospital, and like that's just a memory from my 20s. It's just an anecdote. And if you thought like I deserved that, it was like I didn't. It was just, you know, you don't want to be the migraine sufferer who comes in with ideation into a level 1 trauma center. But by and large, I didn't overwhelm the channel with details, and I was a good patron. And in terms, I think my topics that I suggested were voted first or second or third place every month, and that even when I lost one, she ended up making it anyways. She liked the topic so much. But on the first video she made, she's asked me a question like, "How do you want this made?" It was black hole information loss paradox and the holographic principle, and I just sort of we had some brief interaction, and I sort of told her an anecdote that made her laugh. But then at the same time, I'm panicking because it's like how I got here, why I'm here, and I just feel like a sleeper agent. And then I sort of just like snapped and messaged her. She didn't read any of my direct messages, but I just confessed, you know, I'm in here because of a trauma response to something, but I do really like the channel. So moving forward, my life got worse as a listener Patreon. My life turned upside down in a lot of ways, and I left some little health updates here and there. I had some hospital visits where I was just like terrified of organ damage from something. But then I got even more scared because I was afraid I was going to lose my insurance because the government changed and Medicare. So I was worried about finances, so I didn't stay in her. I left her channel, sent her a message. But then I came back a few months ago, and everything fell apart. So the build up to the second trauma response, it was October. I was trapped in bed with a fever headache for a very long time. I had completely changed my media habits. So I accidentally watched the Charlie Kirk assassination and like the woman getting stabbed on the bus. And I was just like, okay, I need to escape and I need to find a different platform. So I went to Blue Sky, and she was the only one I knew on Blue Sky. So I followed her, and just as a starting point, but I got trapped in bed, so I responded to her a lot of things. And then there was the No Kings protest, and I was in too much pain to go. And I was upset. And so I listened to music as a coping mechanism. And this is kind of personal because it's like for 20 years, you know, I've been dealing with people calling me skinhead jokes. And it's only recently, it's like people aren't fucking joking. Like, I get called that online, just my phenotype. And it's just for having alopecia and with actual fascists in the world, in our country. So I listen to music as a coping mechanism, almost pathologically. And this time I ended up, because I couldn't attend the march, I wanted to share it because it just seemed like a song to describe it. And, you know, I commented on her post and she blocked me, and I just collapsed and got really angry with myself because, you know, I go through these, it's like a fire that just burns through my face and it changes how I think and communicate. And then, you know, when it's over, it's like, oh shit, there's an effect, there's a cause and effect. And I lost something. So this is about parasocial connections and understanding that. Parasocial is when you think you know someone and you can sit down and talk to them and understand how they react to things and such. But the reality is I've never had that confidence with her. She is strange to me. And one of the reasons I've kept following her is she keeps surprising me. Like suddenly she's making videos on country music, and I listen to music in foreign languages, like just because it helps me remind me that there's more to this world than my memories. But when you're a weirdo, everyone is strange. And as far as content creators go, like their tolerance levels for blocking is, based off of understanding them and what you see from other creators. She was talking about going on Twitch. She hasn't done it yet. She said she hasn't figured it out. But I follow someone on Twitch, and I've been going there for years, on and off. He doesn't have any arms or legs, and he plays video games. And when I'm in too much pain, I'll join and watch. And he's better at them than me. And they're fast Twitch games that guy can't play because it'd be too hard on my head. But he has to deal with I remember years ago he'd have people come in and just tease him and bully him, ask him inappropriate questions, and we're just sort of in shock. Me and some of the other people, and we're asking him how do you deal with this? And he's just nonchalant. He's just teenagers on the internet, man. It's nothing. I don't even think he blocked him. He may have had a mod who did it for him, but he was so unfazed by it. I was shocked because I don't have that strength. But now I have to deal with the consequences, and on the one hand, I know it's blue sky. I can live without it, but the way it happened was devastating, and because I was still in pain, and the president is dumping diarrhea on all the protesters by the end of the day, and I'm in searing pain, sobbing, because one of the only creators I followed just blocked me permanently, and but I'm still on her Patreon, and I have to make a decision.
How's it going? Let me know.
So again, I listen to that, and I write up a message for what will be my topic suggestion, and then I panic, and I think that's insufficient, and I create an unlisted YouTube video to explain who she's dealing with and just put this to some resolution. Here it is.
So a year ago, I had a problem with my spine, and I couldn't move my head, and I discovered your channel, and I went through all the videos while I was doing physical therapy up until...
He's not allowed to escape until he finds the book of his life. I liked this book. I like reading about different versions of hell.
If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't be here. And my body jolted as soon as I heard that. I literally had to catch myself from falling over. I was making a dream catcher just at the end of the year, and I had written a book in 2024, and it took me 14 years to write.
So, in a snap decision, I joined your Patreon, sent you a message, and within 72 hours, you were making a video on my suggestion.
How's it going? Thank you for being here, and I hope... How's it going? Let me know.
And that was the end of that video, and as you've probably noticed, I've been doing that, sharing, oversharing, and that process has got to come to an end or some resolution. And what I didn't know at the start is my life would turn upside down. I would get a new diagnosis, which meant I had to rewrite the book, and I don't remember what happened this summer. I got Lyme's disease. There's a whole splotch of time just missing. And I listened to music as a coping mechanism, and I'm really sorry.
But before that happened, you made the Bose video on my suggestion, and that's how I got back here again, because when you referenced it in your last video, it made me really sad. I just
hopped back in here, and it's obviously not going well, and I'm not going well. And what really bothers me is this.
Can you imagine if you get headaches all the time and they're like, I guess our only option is to open your skull and look at your brain? No, MRIs.
I'm not going to show you my surgical photos of when they cut my head open, but they do go in blind, and it's not that simple, and it was all experimental.
But like my headaches are gone, and it's just like, I hear you, but yikes, go to a doctor. Like a doctor isn't gonna let you have headaches for years unless you go get your back popped. It's like, what was the reason for the headache?
So I'm not going to use the original audio from this, because what happened was I was sobbing for about 10 minutes until I hit a breaking point, and I came up with this idea to make this video. So I grabbed my phone, started recording, and I just started talking, and I don't want to use that audio because I just, hearing it again now, I just feel pathetic. But I'm gonna translate what I said. I always admire people who escape something as a child, because I didn't. It started when I was a toddler. My parents thought my screaming was a temper tantrum, and they locked me in a room. It is one thing to have a disease, it is another thing to be teased for it as a child. And I have a superscript. I had to explain my absences. Other children didn't buy it. I also had family members scream at me because it wasn't real to them. And then you grow up in hospitals as a teenager, and some of those wards are a world no one knows about. When I think about some of those kids, I don't think some of them made it. And in the sense that of drug use, of leaving there. And there was one guy my age who just injected heroin straight into his Heblock IV. And dihydroergotamine is like chemotherapy, and how hard it is on the body. I continue. They tortured us. You get IVs until your veins blow out. I had one explode in my arm, the vein just gone. But we learned something about ourselves, and we learned we have something to manage. And you move on to somebody else, and they just prescribe you fentanyl. And this is what speaking to a headache neurologist can actually be like.
I even had one neurologist say to me, well, I came in and I'm not getting better. They've tried this and tried that, and it's not being effective. And I went in, and he kind of said, well, the only cure is at 357. And I said, 357? And he says, well, you can't cure them. I says, are you saying I should blow my brains out?
So, you know more stories than I ever will, and know more about this world than or most people ever will. And so watching those videos is hard. Why you? Part of this is because you're a physicist who specializes in system dynamics. And these are medical papers describing the disease in that framework. This is not something medical students are ever going to come across. This is a very niche area of research. It's a very small dialogue. That it's a self-amplification of a feedback loop, and where the noise is pain signals. And I explain it to people that how an allergy is an external stimulus that the body just overreacts to. It's like that, only that it's sort of like how an autoimmune disease is where the body attacks itself. This is the central nervous system, and the body is just in this runaway state. And so there are 3 different types of primary headaches. There are tension, there are cluster, which was the guy in the video you just saw, and there are migraine. And some of us have to manage all 3 of them. I am one of them. So for 40 million Americans who have a disease, migraine, you would think there would be a lot of resources, but the reality is there's just over 500 headache specialists in the country. Some are born overseas, some may not be staying. It sort of frightens me. It's pretty hard to find one. Well, half of the states don't have them. So my memories are stranger than fiction, and I had to write them down. This is all from 2013. I used to put this in my pillowcase when I was in the hospital. now it looks like this, and it's being rewritten. And I follow you. You have the rage of a good heart, and there's something about that I trust, and it's refreshing. And going through the process of getting something like this reviewed reminds me of you're constantly showing all the YouTube comments that are just really hard on you, and you're coping with it, and you're trying to make sense of these people. And it's a lot like that, because you don't know them, and it's strange. So hearing that, and while holding and doing all this, it's just, who do I want to judge me? It's you. So I've been recording this throughout the week, and I'm still really nervous I'm going to get blocked and refunded. I'll be devastated, and that's sort of the impetus behind doing all this. But I really enjoy the channel no matter what. Eventually my book will be on NetGalley. My work is really slow. I only have so many functional hours, and if you've listened to this, thank you. So obviously this did not go well, and I'm not 100% certain if she watched that video. She made it to that after my comment. I was shaking so much that when I put the URL into my browser to check it to make sure the link worked, I lost count of how many views I was responsible for. And this is what I wrote. The topic is thought experiments across different fields, or an overview of symmetry breaking in many forms, whichever you'd prefer. My suggestion didn't make it in the poll last month, which is fine, but I'm struggling. I live in constant pain, and I only realized recently that they'll euthanize people in my condition in Europe. And I added this line because I just started processing that. Because it's like, I'm invisible in America, but over there I could be seen and not die. Part of my quality of life is getting fascinated easily by things. Growing up in hospitals, I had to escape boredom by any means. I have a notepad of topics, but I don't know if they fit in or I fit here. And part of that is because the previous month, my topic suggestion, I came up with it rather rapidly and chaotically. I wasn't feeling great, and she sort of snapped back at it. It was EM drives, which is a strange type of engine that was just kind of a weird science story. And this is where I'm honest. Sometimes the pain lasts for days, and it's like a burning on my face, and it changes how I think and communicate. And then I explain getting blocked. I have a lot of respect for you. I'm sorry. I fled a lot of platforms because they were toxic. I'm new to that space, and I considered it proper at the time. I understand now, but I'm very sorry and shaken by it. And so I don't know what I was expecting, but in retrospect, it feels like I walked up to a checkpoint with a message, and I got gunned down by an auto turret because I immediately got blocked after that. So the rest of the video was me sort of processing and trying to validate why I thought she was a good person to read that, in terms of it, the ending of the book, some of her interests, but then I also describe how I broke down after this, being blocked, and how even in the past, in years leading up to the anniversary of the death experience, I would sort of change, get manic, and it sort of just the passage of time and what it meant, and being in pain. And I got trapped with a fever headache, and this time I broke, and I emailed her. And one of the things that happens with some of these headaches is that my only coping mechanism is communicating something. It sort of relieves the pain in the moment, and of just attempting to be understood. And that's in some ways how my writing always evolved, which is I am in pain, sitting on my laptop, expressing myself. So it's an extension of that in some ways. And so I emailed her, and I imagine after 1 hour, the pain gets worse. I emailed again, and a lot of it is just explaining myself, and a lot of it is based on this humiliating notion that I'm going to turn into some anecdote for her, that she's going to repeat in one of her videos or on Blue Sky, and that just got under me, and that people are going to hear from this without any context of who I am or this. And but I have no idea I doubt she read much of the emails. But I remember towards the end, I was just sort of like, "You're not even real. My face feels like it's touching the surface of the sun. I don't trust Angela anymore." And that's one of the last things I remember writing. But now that my city is under siege in Minneapolis, I'm just sort of constantly devouring news sources, information, and I was back on Blue Sky, and then I just decided to open it up without my login to see what she's responding to in my community. And I did, and then I just kept scrolling down, and I realized I did kind of become an anecdote. She complained about me. And it's startling just that I'm so beyond the domain of her compassion in any sense that I hadn't. And, the comments to that, all 14 comments, they're just sort of gifs, people rolling their eyes or making fun of the whole situation, sort of laughing. That's like, it's an autistic person who has chronic pain and who had a breakdown. This situation. Again, keep in mind I was sort of like this when I wrote it. And that's what I communicated, and I probably should have given up a lot sooner and never gone back. I don't know if this one was related to me. It was around the same time, but that's who I was dealing with, and I had no idea. And in my world, I'm not able to see outside of myself and put myself in other people's minds. So, and that doesn't make sense to me. But this isn't about her. This is about the trauma response and just what this experience has done to me and how it's transformed me. And there's a number of incidents over the years. I've only told so many people about it, and when I have told people, it's changed me. And sort of my relationship, it took me 17 years to tell my best friend, and that was one of the only times where it went smoothly. Sometimes it sort of changed how I dealt with that person, and I also, when just the build up to November the 13th, things like this would happen. I would get extremely emotional and I had a psychologist for 5 years, and she got laid off. I think her entire department at the hospital got laid off, and I can't see her ever again because of a insurance technicality, because I'm disabled. So I was forced to say goodbye, and so it was just like a clock winding down when my last appointments. And towards the end, I brought these. I've had these for years, and I've used them for sometimes cooking. This is the 1 minute timer. I'll put my head underwater in the sink. Times this one I used at work a lot, and this one I used when I was a kid. This is my oldest one. It's antique. I got a migraine. It would calm me down just to see that. And it's only a half hour, and I'd have to flip that 3 times or something, 3 or 4 before the pain would end. But you know, the afterlife was in the shape of an hourglass in my death experience. And when I showed these to my psychologist, I'd showed it to her years before, and I told her about the event years before. And she forgot. And I lost it. And I said goodbye to her, sort of more abruptly after that. And it still wears on me. You know, this channel did not start for reasons that you might think. At the start of the year, as I jumped into her Patreon, like, I had to get off of medication, and I'd been on it for a decade, and I was getting sleep seizures at night. Anytime I fell asleep without taking the medication. And I was convinced that if you can die from alcohol withdrawal, you can die from the withdrawal I was experiencing, because my heart would stop for like 5 or 6 seconds and then start up just pounding. And you know, I had to go off the medication, and so I started making videos. In the event that I showed up in the hospital or something, I wouldn't be able to speak. I'd just have an externalized voice and just be able to hand someone my phone, see the channel. They'd have some idea what was going on with me. But, you know, I recovered, but my body's different. And the dream catcher's behind me. You know, the reason they exist is because of those sleep seizures. I was legitimately concerned I was just not going to wake up from one of these events. And my family was just going to find me in my bed. And you know, I wanted some context for what I was going through. So I needed some creative outlet, and I kept them, imagining that, you know, they'd find me and people would take these after I'm gone.